There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing episode. You may remember him from the live at Broadway Con Cats Debate, or you might know him for his incredible photography business, or as the creator of the Dressing Room Project, which is a photographic journal of actors prepping for their roles on Broadway, or maybe from one of his other two podcasts, Dear Multi-Hyphenate or My Broadway Memory, and all these other things he does, but none of that matters today, because what matters is that his high school production of Cats might be one of the most elaborate things I've ever heard of. So welcome, Michael Kushner, and thank you for joining me.
Hi. I'm so excited because let me tell you, you fulfilled doing the live show at Broadway. Oh my God, my phone, Jesus. Doing the live show at Broadway Con with Nancy Opal and Tommy Bracco and just like legends. I literally was like, I can't believe I was asked to do this. I'm like, I'm sitting up. First of all, Nancy Opal, I did On the Town with her at Barrington Stage in the pre-Broadway tryout for the revival, the 2014 revival. And I was geeking out about her because in high school, we were obsessed with Nancy Opal because when we were doing Cats, we found out that our next year's show was going to be Urinetown. So while we were doing Cats, we were also like belting Privilege to Pee and like trying to impersonate Nancy Opal. So like the fact that I was sitting on this panel with Nancy Opal talking about Cats was mind blowing to me. So thank you for that.
I love that because it just also really highlights how different you and I are, because when Nancy and Tommy and everyone who was added to the panel and was like brought up to me, I'm like, I think I know who they are. It was like, it wasn't like the obsession, because I'm not that super fan that knows a ton about Broadway. So it's like, if it hadn't happened in the past 4 years when I've lived in New York, it's probably fairly faint of my knowledge on it. And so I was excited to have you on the panel because I knew you had strong opinions about the show. So I knew some of the other people either were in the show or did not know anything about it, which is what I was looking for. I wanted people that knew nothing about Cats to come in that had a good sense of humor, like Nancy and Tommy. Then I wanted Gurr and Christine and people who were in the show to kind of balance you and I as being the additional, like, hey, let's round this out. Let's get a debate going.
Yes.
We had a blast. It's a great episode.
I think we would consider us catfissionados. So, I had a blast doing it. I mean, I remember like you had a great audience too. And I remember when I was taking notes, I heard these two girls like in the third row go, "Oh my God, he's so serious." As I was like, because I was ready to debate. I was ready to state my claim. Like I was ready.
Yeah, you had a legitimate argument. Like you made your case, whereas Nancy and Tommy just like made stuff up.
Yeah,
they had no idea, which was great. It was a great balance. It was really super fun. A great event that I hope happens, again soon. But let's talk before we go to your high school production, which is where we're going to spend most of our time today. Tell me about your Cats history. Did you love it before high school, or were you really introduced to it when you got to perform it?
I saw a national tour of it with my mom, and it was like that time, I guess. I don't know if I had ever realized that performing was ever, I don't know if I ever knew that performing was not a job, because my grandma was a community theater actor in Long Island and at the JCC in like the 80s. And what they used to do was like not get the rights to the shows, but do like Fiddler on the Roof and rename Fiddler on the Roof to like Peddler on the Stoop. So no one knew what it was. And like, I'm trying to think of other shows, like Bye Bye Birdie was like Conrad ! Or like Sweet Apple. You know what I mean? Like
this is
funny
like the
shit
DVD
like
you buy off the street from the bootleg guy with a different name.
100%. But so I guess I always knew that they were jobs, but I was young. My first show I ever saw was River Dance. That was the first like show. And then I saw the Titanic National Tour, and then I saw the Cats National Tour. And I guess I was about 8 or 9 when I saw Cats. And I remember being like, they're like, Cats is very polarizing for so many people, like where they're like, I hated it, or I was fascinated, or like I had no idea what's going on. But I remember the Cats running into the audience with the green eyes shining at us.
The intro, right?
And us sort of like, and during the overture, Angelical Cats. And like, I was like fascinated, didn't have any idea what was going on, but like enjoyed it thoroughly, and then like destroyed the VHS because I like couldn't stop watching it.
So that's okay. So that's perfect. So you saw it as a kid, you loved it, you kind of got into it, and then you get this opportunity to do it in high school.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Uh-huh.
So here's what I know, and we're going to cover all of these things.
Okay.
So you have told me that it cost $44,000 to produce.
Yes, that was the number.
What does a normal high school production cost for a show? I have no frame of reference here.
Probably anywhere from like, depending on the school, because there are some areas in the country where there's no arts funding,
theater,
no theater. So like, first of all, we had the 3000 building at American Heritage School was the theater. So it was a private school. I should back up and talk about the area where I'm from. I'm from Fort Lauderdale, where arts is alive. It is a very bizarre area, but the arts it is pretty alive. And there's regional theaters, equity houses, museums, dance troupes, choir, like everywhere. Like I was raised surrounded by the arts and started performing 20 years ago this year, actually. And so the after school programs, the performing arts after school programs that I would be a part of, I mean, it was like at Carl Springs Institute for the Performing Arts, it was hundreds of kids that I was doing theater with, not like 20, 25. It was hundreds. It was amazing. And there were a lot of groups like that around in Fort Lauderdale. So then I went to a performing arts. Well, it was a private high school. I was on full scholarship. And I don't want to say it was a performing arts high school. It was a school that sort of excelled in everything they did. It was like you went there for sports, or you went there to get into MIT or Yale or Harvard, or you went there for performing arts, or you went there for fine art. Like everything that you went there and specialized for, like it was an exciting time. And but the thing about that is every high school around in the area was really, really, really good at performing arts as well. So it was very competitive. And now I'm a judge at Florida State Thespians, which is like one of my favorite things to do. And because we all competed in that together. Hi, my name is Michael Kushner. I'm performing I Want to Go Home from Big, and I proudly represent Troop 3814. You did the song, you got critiqued, and if you got Critics' Choice, you performed in front of everyone, and it was amazing. So even if there wasn't money involved, there was still, the theater was really good. So American Heritage, we had 3 theaters in our building. We had the studio theater, we had the black box, and we had the main stage. And the main stage, I think if it was in New York, it would definitely be considered a Broadway house because it was more than 599 seats. My first show I ever did at the Carl Springs Center for the Arts, that was a touring house. That was a 2,000 seater. So I'm used to playing the big houses. But seriously, like it was a big house. When it wasn't an auditorium, we had hydraulics. Like it was a theater. There's money involved, right? There was money involved. But then like other shows that had talent would do it on their cafeteria, like pull out stage and do great work. But it varied. Like money varies sort of with high school. And I feel like you could do like a production for like $500, but then you could also spend like a couple thou.
See, so again, like this is where I have no frame of reference because where I'm from in the Midwest, we have 9 of the 10 largest high school basketball arenas in the country are around me. And so I have a very good idea of how much they spend on that sport. But since I was never in high school theater, never watched really high school theater, saw the national tours that came through the city, but like I don't know if we spent at my school $100, $1,000, $0. I honestly don't even know if we did plays. I don't remember. I'm sure we did because I went to a school that did prioritize the arts. But I saw 44,000. I was like, that seems really high for high school. That seems like a high budget.
Yeah, but the thing is like we had that budget. We had. I mean, our shop alone was massive. It was like 2 stories of shop space, and we had dressing rooms, and we were connected to an equity house too. So like it had equity standard like facilities. So, I mean, in Urinetown, we had that production of Urinetown was done. It was Broadway characters stuck in Urinetown. So like Hope was actually Mary Poppins and I was Tiny Tom, but I was actually Simba from The Lion King. And like Mrs. Lovett was gave that away. Pennywise was Mrs. Lovett and Bobby was Curly. And Hope, when she entered, Hope Gladwell, she was Mary Poppins. She flew in and we had a full installed rented fly system that was like she can like go back and forth and move around, and she flew in. So, and also our set was a hydraulic, like I at the top of Act 2 like came up from the stage.
So it sounds like you went to the school from Step Up.
I did. I went. It was, yes, I did.
That's going to be my frame of reference for this. Okay, so the second piece that I really want to dig into is that you didn't have a junkyard. You didn't have the standard-ish set. You had a World War II bombed out cathedral as the backdrop of your musical.
Yeah, so we like to do shows that like our director Jim Usher would like to give it a little spin. And Cats was done in World War II in a bombed out cathedral. And it was beautiful. I mean, the stained glass was like in the cathedral, the stained glass was cat eyes, like hidden. And like it was really amazing. And it was stained glass and the light was beautiful. And this set was like a jungle gym, basically. I remember crawling through all of these different like pathways to get to certain places. And it was a bombed out cathedral. Now, for instance, in the top of the show during Jellicle Cats are queens of the night singing in us, mm-hmm. That part, mm-hmm. the choir part. When a shoe falls down, right?
Yep.
Instead of a shoe falling, it was a dud bomb.
Which brings a whole new meaning to the show.
I know, which was World War II. I mean, it was a dud bomb. And then just like Jelly Lorem or someone just like kind of like
picks it off. So did you change other parts of the musical to be World War II themed? Because I definitely have thought about this now. Since you told me this, I have some thoughts on how we can adjust this story to be more 1940s.
I should watch the DVD. I have to find the DVD, but
this is filmed. It's filmed. You have a videography budget, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was filmed, and I could we could do a viewing of it, but there are a few things that come to mind. One was when Grizz goes up to the Heaviside layer. Instead of the tire, you may be asking, what did Grizz fly on? Well, Grizz flew on the altar. The altar in the bombed out cathedral rose into the Heaviside layer, and it was done Elphaba cherry picker style. We had a cherry picker on stage disguised with the altar, and it fully flew up into the sky with Grizz just like on it. And then that blackout where she's supposed to disappear, she just like goes into the altar, and it looks like she just like disappears into the Heaviside layer. So that's one. Then there was the whole pyrotechnic element. There were flashes, just like Joseph. There was flashes of light. Like there was Michaela Mancuso, who played Jenny Anydots. I remember it was either final dress or like opening. It was like she's tapping her little tush off, and there's like flash, pyrotechnic, bomb, and she's just like, it's like, thank you, my dears, hit. She catches on fire, and she is like on fire, and we have to like put her out or something like that. It was just wild.
When you told me about that, the fire for Jenny Anydots, I thought maybe you were trying to exterminate the mice and rats and cockroaches.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, who? I don't know. I have to remember. Like, I think there might be more specific things that were World War II, but those are the three things that really kind of stick out in my mind: is the bomb, the altar, and then the pyrotechnics in in Jenny Anydots. So
this is where I like to live, which is this type of absurdity.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's write the show as a war musical.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done some thinking about this.
Oh my God.
Who do you think? Who would that make Old Deuteronomy? Because I think there's three choices. Like, how do you now turn this into a war film?
I guess it would be Churchill, right?
So I thought Churchill, but you could also argue Truman, FDR, or Eisenhower.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, it's kind of interesting. And then what is McCavity fucking Hitler?
So I have that written. that could be it. And then if that's the case, then some of his followers are Mungo, Jerry, and Rumpelteazer.
Interesting. And what is that, like Goebbels and like? But yeah, that's the thing, is they're not evil like Goebbels. I would say, like, I don't know, like, it's interesting because like you make an interesting point. Mungo, Jerry, and Rumpelteazer are McCavity's followers.
They're technically his children, I think, and they're not that evil. They're more mischievous than evil. And that's like, honestly, calling McCavity Hitler seems like also pushing a lot further than like his level of evil than it should be.
No, it's true. McCavity
I had Churchill as Buster for Jones. Just seems like it fits better. Like, it kind of, honestly, maybe it's just because I compared them in my Bust for episode anyways. It just seems like kind of a jolly old British guy, and like to start. So that's one that I think could be there. But I think here's the one that really got me is the awful battle of the Peaks and the Palkals. Is that the invasion of Poland?
Okay, two things. One, hysterical. Two, we didn't do Peaks and Palkals because in the licensed version, I don't think it's in there.
See, that's where I don't know. It's kind of a weird little subplot of the story anyways, where it's just like they're talking about fighting a dog to amuse,
right?
Amuse Old Deuteronomy. But the whole point is that it's a battle.
Right. And that's kind of interesting, like that you're talking about, like, it's an invasion of I mean, like, the Mungo, Jerry, and Rumpelteazer always reminded me of like the Thénardiers in Les Mis, right? Like, in the musical, the Thénardiers aren't evil or like, or they're terrible, sure, like whatever, like they're the villains of the story, and they always rise on top, like that's sort of the thing. It's like that's their message. It's like, but in the book, they're evil. They're awful. They're not good. They're not good people. And the musical pokes fun at that, which I love. And I feel like that's sort of like a Mungo, Jerry, and Rumpelteazer thing, where it's like the musical, they add, a comedic element to the show. They're the rabble rousing cats, and then they're doing the cartwheels. So I don't think that they're like. I don't think McCavity would be Hitler compared to Hitler if.
I really think this boils down to is that you decided, or your director decided, to go World War II, and
right.
And it's an already loose plot, and so I would have just owned it and really went for it and said, like, look, if we're gonna change the set, let's really make some changes. And it sounds like you did some of them.
And it's not like we're like shy of the swastika or anything. We did the producers 2 years later, and I was Roger Debris. I was fully Hitler. Like there's one point in the video where I watch it back, and I'm giving Springtime for Hitler, and the way that I move in one of the moments in Springtime for Hitler, my hair goes a certain way, and with the mustache and everything, I look like Hitler. And my mom also said something about it too. She was like, "You look like Hitler." It's like, I know that's not great, but I did win an award for it. I do think it's performing arts. You are, this is also a little bit of parody. Like there's that there, not condemning the action. So, and that's where I like, when I heard this, I was like, all right, this is who I think, but like, I don't know if I really want to say McCavity is Hitler. Like that's a pretty far stretch for him, even though that does fit the World War II narrative. That's interesting, because I don't think that there's like a Hitler comparison in Cats. Like
not at all.
Trying to think of someone in the
nobody like that bad in the, like McCavity is your antagonist, but he's really not that terrible. He kind of captures what is most likely his brother or his dad, and then there's like this kind of like little half-assed fight, and then all of a sudden he's done and he loses, and that's it. It's not like he and then in the new movie they kind of almost made him with Idris Elba. It wasn't even that evil. It didn't feel that evil. It was just kind of strange.
Would you say McCavity could represent not like an expat, but like someone that didn't support the British Empire, like someone that like left, escaped, or something like that? It could probably be that sort of comparison, not True. So much.
But isn't that Grisabella who then comes back?
Grisabella is more of just like I feel like McCavity, if we're talking about this in World War II, McCavity made an active choice to be like, I'm anti-British, I'm bad, but Grisabella was sort of like, she was just sort of like a little diva, and everyone was like, wait, you're not that hot. And you know what I mean? And I feel like that's like, I'm trying to think of now who Grisabella could represent in history.
We've devoted too much time to World War II, knowing that your group didn't even go into this as deeply as I would have hoped.
No, unless we did, and it's like something I don't even remember. But I mean, I do have pictures from Cats, but I should get the video for you, because it's really epic. It's really epic.
I would love to watch it. I'm now being offered. There's been a handful of versions now that I do want to see that are taped. And I don't know if I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to be able to sit through Cats anymore in my life.
Right.
But I do want to talk now about the show, because I think we got to get off the World War II. We got to move on. And your production was, more than everything you want. It's got, fire. It's the everything is fine meme. That's what's happening in your production. Everything around you is on fire. It's a little bit offset, but again, incredible show.
Yeah, it was good. And here's one quick little story before we go. I was the type of school where the school had a makeup department, and I wound up taking the class my senior year, and I loved it. But every cat had a makeup artist. So we did.
You had a class project for it.
We didn't do our own hair and wig and makeup or anything. We sat down and we got our faces painted, and by the makeup classes. So like it was like maybe it came out perfectly where like one person had one person. So it was great. It was just so good. And so there's something called Cappies, which is a like the Tonys, but for South Florida theater, high school theater. And Cats was nominated for a bunch of things. And we were looking at the time of setup and the night, and we realized that we would not be able to have enough dressing room space where we could get ready backstage. So we showed up full unitard, full hair, full makeup as Cats to this ceremony and did the red carpet and like entered like just full costume, full Cats. And it was great. And my friends still talk about, like from other schools, they still bring it up to this day that it was one of the funniest things they'd ever seen in their life.
Did you win?
Yeah, we won for stuff. I don't remember what we won for, but like we won for
best makeup.
We definitely won for makeup, but we also probably won for musical number or direction or something like that.
Stage design.
Yeah, we definitely won for stuff.
All kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the South Florida musical number of this. Let's talk about the revival or the original production. I know you have very strong opinions on it. Yes. So I've obviously debated a lot of different things. I've made up a lot of stuff. I've read a lot of stuff. What is your take on the musical? Like, give me just your hot takes. Like, where have I either been wrong or what have I nailed as the Broadway outsider talking about Cats? I'm going to be very honest with you. I think Cats is sort of a do what you think I mean sort of a situation. I think that we have to be in a certain state of mind anyway to accept the conceit that it's a bunch of human beings dressed as cats dancing and telling a story. You know what I mean? Like, in no way are we going to walk into the Broadway or the Winter Garden, or the Neil Simon and go, it better be Cats this time. You know what I mean? Like, no, like I want actual felines. And if it's not, I'm not accepting this revival. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to be doing that. So I think that boils down to like the experience that we choose, like whether or not the audience, like someone shows up like a few drinks in or like a little stoned or like ready to like dissect this and compare it to the original product. Whatever it is, I think everyone is on its own journey. Like, even doing the show, there were things where I was like, what is that lyric? Like, not even hearing that lyric until like closing night. Like, I think everyone is on their journey, and no matter how you approach Cats, I think that it's like and I think it's also a moneymaker too, right? Like, it's sort of like see it again. What did you miss last time? Oh, for sure. I mean, it is one of the highest grossing musicals of all time, I believe. And I think that's why it's one of the money. I think that's why it's a moneymaker, is because people are probably like, I can't believe what I saw. I actually have no idea what I saw, and I need to see it. I have to bring you with me. We have to see this together. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think there's been a couple people that have made compelling arguments about this too, about how like with tourism and Broadway, it's a show that you don't need any background or you honestly don't even need to speak English to understand. Like, you can kind of follow along no matter who you are, where you are, or what you're thinking, which is, I think, also part of it. And it is something that has a little bit of a allure to it, because like the reason I saw it the first time was I heard it was being revived, and everyone's like, I was like, oh, it was that and Phantom were the two that I was like, I gotta see these probably on Broadway. Like, those feel like the ones that's like are classics or just things that you should experience. But that was in that realm, not some of the other things that have been amazing recently that it's like you should go see, but they've had their runs. This is like that historic, you know, it's like seeing something from that just everyone speaks about. So I think that's very true. but it's also the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing, but it's also beautiful. Like, it's visually stunning. And the way that you're talking about it, how like people don't necessarily need to speak English to understand it. I mean, like, think about like with what's his face? Quaxo's singing, dancing part.
Mr.
Mistopheles. Thank you. It's like Mistopheles, right? It's a big magic number. So it's like visual and it gives it to the audience, and that's basically the whole show. It's like, when the tap dancing roaches come on and like, yep. And it's just, we all sort of, and then there are things that kind of convince us of the conceit. And it's like the boot dropping down and remembering that like the boot is, why is the boot so big? Oh, that's right. They're cats,
Yep. Yeah.
So it's kind of, that's kind of, I believe it though. It's really fun. And when I saw the revival, I was really excited just because I actually really like cats and I really like the music. Like, and it was also a time where like I had friends in the show. I had Jess Hendy and I had Megan Ort. Megan Ort was in my class at Ithaca and we did Legally Blonde together. She was my Elle Woods. And next thing you know, she's singing Memory on a Broadway stage because she was the second understudy for Grizz. And I went for her first performance and I photographed her backstage prepping for it as well for a dressing room project. And it was just so wild. It was amazing and wild to see it. But like, also there was like new orchestrations in the revival, which I loved. There was that drum. There was a new drum in this revival that just like got me really tapping my feet really into it. And I liked that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's my only frame of reference is the revival and the VHS. Because that's all I've really seen, and so that's what's kind of fun for me is I've talked to a lot of that cast, and it's great because it was my 2 viewings live was the last preview or second to last preview I think, and then exactly a year later I saw Mamie and a lot of the new when they had their turnover in year 2, and so it's like that's it. So when everyone's like, yeah, do you remember this or this was the change? I'm like, sure, but that's all I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the show's great. Like, I have a lot of fun whenever I go see it, and honestly, there is truth, I think, to that sentence that everyone says that Cats is much more fun to do than it is to see. And whenever I listen to that cast album, I am transported to doing the Jellicle Ball choreography and like getting so into it and like being so excited about like the like there's nothing like and like the lights change and just like that orchestra and just it's just so fun. Like it's such a fun show to do, to just be a cat and dance and like be weird.
Yeah, you're part of that family too, it feels like.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's a great show.
So let's do some rapid fire.
Yes.
So first of all, who did you play in your production?
Quaxo.
Okay. If you got to be anybody you wanted, who would you want to play?
Mungo Jerry. And give us some reason. Because he's so close to Thenardier, and Thenardier is my dream role.
Okay, got it. Favorite and least favorite cat?
Favorite cat, I think, is Jenny Anydots, just because she's so bumbly and fun and just like tapping. We love her. Least favorite cat, I think, is probably McCavity, because I don't need McCavity. Like, I usually love the evil characters, but for some reason, whenever he comes on stage, I'm sort of like, fast forward. I like singing about McCavity, but I don't know.
The McCavity song is amazing.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Okay, so that is favorite song.
Favorite song, aside from like the opening, because I can really jam out to the opening to Jellicle Cats. I love Gus.
Gus is not usually said as favorite song.
It's a tearjerker for me. It really is emotional if you listen to the lyrics and like think about a cat. Like if you like think about like telling the story of an actual cat to that melody and to those lyrics, like, oh, That's gorgeous.
Yeah, it is a very somber and heartwarming moment in a very awkward place of right after intermission.
Yes, 100%. But I love the song. I love the song.
If you had to quarantine with a cat, which one would you want to quarantine with? Which character?
Oh, probably Monkistrap, because he would be like, come on, let's go on an adventure. Let's like do something fun, because I feel like I can get sedentary like Buster Jones.
Yeah. That's been my answer. I was like, let's just chill, eat well, live in your mansion, Bustifer. I think it'd be a good life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bustifer knows what's up.
Okay. Last one. There's a thing called Cat's Tumblr, which I've been educated on, where fans take on cats and write as them back and forth with other fans as if they're in other scenarios. So human scenarios or like everyday life scenarios. So if you could take over writing as a cat on Tumblr, which cat would you want to write for?
I think I would write for Quaxo, because I was once him, and I know, and I once lived in his body, so I know exactly where he's coming from. And I played him as the diva cat. Like, he's like the new Grizz, and I had my hair was a mohawk, and I remember I just like, you know, when he sings "There I'm Tom Tugger is a terrible bore," I remember I like came and did my mohawk. So I would probably write about how a fierce gay cat like myself is enjoying London post Blitz.
I could see that. I feel like you could have some fun with that.
Yeah, that's so fun.
See, I'd write McCavity.
Well, and what would you write about?
I would just be the asshole and the bad guy in every scenario. Like, I think that's fun to write. I think, you know, it's a personality type I'm not normally, and so it'd be fun to kind of be able to take on that persona.
I love that. So like, how is it like they assign each other? Like, do they just like, today I'm writing about like going to the grocery store? Like, how?
My understanding is their profiles. I actually am not super familiar with Tumblr, but I think their profiles, and you like almost write back and forth as like, it's like a thread. And so these fans own different profiles, and it's like, I'm going to get on. And then they kind of, I think they're all friends. You know, I think like they're people that have become a community, and they will just have someone will start the conversation and they'll all kind of jump in. That's my interpretation of it. It seems like, again, it's one of those things that's where cats fandom and just like the fascination of cats is so much more than just this like musical, is that there's these things that live outside that are, you know, fairly wholesome and just people who who enjoyed the community, enjoyed like the writing, enjoyed everything, and have taken a way to interact together.
Yeah. Like, honestly, when it comes to community, like, that's why we do it, right? Is we want to engage and we want to promote community. Like, as long as no one's hurting each other or engaging in like illegal activity where like they're harming each other and stuff like that, then like live your life, like communicate with people, especially during a pandemic. Like, do what you need to do in order to like feel that you are part of the world around you, no matter what it is. Like, if you're going to go on Tumblr and be and sort of, I guess, role play as cats, like, go for it. Like, tell that story. Like, Andrew Lloyd Webber is happy because, you know, I like, who doesn't want their musical being talked about and explored like that?
For sure.
That's exciting.
It reminds me a little bit of sports fandom, which is very similar. And that's like, you've got your community, you've got your thing. And it's a lot too. So it's like, how different is this really? No,
it's not. And like, really cool stuff happens out of it. Like, there was the, you know, I don't think it was like it comes out of fandom, but like things, when we love certain things, when we enjoy certain things, it educates us enough where we can create something with that. So like, there was the that musical that was written, Twisted, which was about like the Wicked but of Jafar, and like, that's fucking cool, you know? Like, that's like, people, when they take their like geekiness and their like fandom and they like turn it into something that like other people can enjoy, That's awesome. That's what it's about.
Agreed. Agree 100%. So last question.
Mm-hmm.
Should Grisabella be the one to die and ascend in your church altar to the Heaviside Layer? Or would you be voting for someone else if you were in charge?
I probably would send Gus.
Team Gus. It's the consensus.
Yeah, just because like he did so much and like he's so lovely and like he's old. Like let him rest now. Let him enjoy. You know what I mean? Like he's often played as not doing too well too. Yeah. You know what I mean? He's like, I mean, like Max Mellman played him in my high school production, and he was full shaky. Like, I mean, like wasn't looking at anyone, like shaky, and barely was on his voice. I mean, it was some acting happening, but he was on his way out anyway.
Sir John Mills was blind and had to be like carried on stage in the VHS.
Right. I didn't know that wasn't like a choice.
No, it was he has walked out there because he is blind at time of that filming. And so he couldn't do any dance numbers. He couldn't do anything. He had to be basically handheld out there to stand on his mark for the movie.
And that's amazing. That's Sue Jane Tanner that's walking him out. And Sue Jane Tanner was the original Madame Thénardier in London in Les Mis.
Everything crosses over. So
right.
How do we, you're involved in so many projects. I want to make sure we cover them. How do we follow them? How do we listen to your podcasts and follow the Dressing Room Project and everything else?
Yeah, of course. Follow me at the Michael Kushner on Instagram. That's like the most important thing, just because like that's pretty much like my hub. But at the Michael Kushner on Instagram. And when you listen to my podcast, your Multi-Hyphenate, or watch My Broadway Memory every Thursday live, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you could follow those accounts on Instagram at Dear Multi-Hyphenate and at My Broadway Memory. And we can keep in touch and we can do all that stuff and kibitz and have a good time.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for enlightening us and telling us about your insane and amazing production of Cats from South Florida.
You're so welcome. I will find that DVD and I'll watch it, and I will let you know if there's anything else I need to report.
Yeah, I want to know any more plot changes. That's really what I'm most interested in, is what else did you decide to do to change the narrative of Cats? Because there's a lot of ways you could do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll watch it and I'll let you know.
Perfect. Well, thanks for listening to this episode with Michael Kushner on The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Wrong Cat Died, or check out our website, thewrongcatdied.com.